So Lady Montague, she asks Benvolio after all this fighting is over, "Oh, saw you, where's Romeo? Saw you him today? Right glad I am he was not at this fray." So she's like, "Oh, thank God Romeo wasn't here. But like, by the way, where is Romeo?" And Benvolio says, "Oh, I've kind of been meaning to talk to you about it," is sort of what he's thinking to himself. "Madam, an hour before the worshipped sun peered forth the golden window of the east, a troubled mind drove me to walk abroad, where, underneath the grove of sycamore that westward rooteth from this city side, so early walking did I see your son. Towards him I made, but he was ware of me, and stole into the covert of the wood. I, measuring his affections by my own, which then most sought where most might not be found, being one too many by my weary self, pursued my humor, not pursuing his, and gladly shunned who gladly fled from me." So he's like, "Oh, speaking of Romeo, I saw him an hour before the sun peered through the window," right? So an hour before the sun rose, I took a walk under the grove of sycamore trees. I saw your son. I made towards him, but he was ware of me. Sometimes Shakespeare cuts off letters, right? So it should be aware, but for meter and syllable continuity, he cuts it out, but you sort of assume it's there. So, but he was ware of me. He saw me, and he stole into the cover of the wood. So he like avoided me, right? And I measured his affections by how I feel when I don't want to be, when I don't want to, hang out with people, and I gladly shunned he who gladly fled from me. Like, okay, fine, you don't want to talk to me? Fine, I'm good. Let's just catch up later. And remember, Benvolio is Romeo's cousin, so they're really good friends, but they're also family. Montague, he's heard this before. "Ah, many a morning hath he there been seen, with tears augmenting the fresh morning's dew, adding to clouds more clouds with his deep sighs. But all so soon as the all-cheering sun should in the farthest east begin to draw the shady curtains from Aurora's bed, away from light steals my heavy son, and private in his chamber pens himself, shuts up the windows, locks fair daylight out, and makes himself an artificial night. Oh, black and portentous may this humor prove, unless good counsel can the cause remove." And so what Romeo's dad is saying is like, "Oh yeah, no, I've heard this. This is an issue with him. He's been doing this. This is not the first time I've heard him roaming around before the sun even, is up. Being all secretive, being all like moody." And so he says, "I've seen him with tears augmenting the fresh morning's dew." You have to ask yourself, maybe you don't know what augmenting means, but if you picture, I've seen him with tears, and then there's dew on the flowers and the grass, and his tears are adding to more tears. A lot of sirens. Don't normally hear sirens around here that much, do you? Yeah. Normally it's lawnmowers. Benvolio is kind of worried about Romeo because he's just been acting a little strange, and Montague says that, yeah, I've seen him acting strange too. And before the sun's even up, he like goes to bed, he closes all the curtains, and he basically makes himself an artificial night. And he says that this is going to be dangerous if he doesn't get good counsel. "Black and portentous may this humor prove, unless good counsel may the cause remove." And so Benvolio says, "My noble uncle, do you know the cause?" And Montague says, "I neither know it nor can learn of him." Like, I've tried. And Benvolio says, "Have you importuned him by any means? Like, have you really questioned him and tried to intervene?" And he says, "Both by myself and many other friends, but he is his own affection's counselor, is to himself, I will not say how true, but to himself so secret and so close, so far from sounding and discovery, as is the bud bit with an envious worm ere he can spread his sweet leaves to the air, or dedicate his beauty to the same." I love that metaphor because you got to kind of slow down, and that Romeo is so secret and so close. He's so far from sounding and discovery, as is a bud, like a flower bud. And we heard about buds when we were reading Sonnet 130, the "Shall I compare thee to a summer's day," the rough winds do shake the darling buds of May. So we know buds are like little baby flowers, like a little tiny bud, right? Not like a strong big flower, but a tiny little bud. And his father, compares Romeo to a bud bit with an envious worm ere he can spread his sweet leaves to the air, saying that like his father feels like he's a worm trying to get into this flower that is not opening up. And the worm's like, I want to get the pretty flowers. And the bud is like, no. And the worm is envious. He's like, oh, you have all the secrets. Tell me what it is. And the bud is like, leave me alone. And so you kind of have to picture literally a bud, envious worm. Why would a worm want to get into a flower? Oh, to like eat what's inside. But as we know with Shakespeare, are we talking about buds? Are we talking about worms? No, we're talking about the issues that he's having with his son Romeo, and how Romeo is so secret and so close to himself. And so again, you really have to use all of the context clues, then look at what Shakespeare says literally, picture flower, worm, trying to get the nectar, then take it one step further. Figuratively, how could that be applied? Oh, Montague is like, Romeo, what's wrong? My son, what's wrong? Please, I'll help you. Like, what's wrong? Do you want to talk to someone? Like, did someone piss you off? Like, should I have someone killed? Like, what do you need? I got you. And Romeo just won't give it up, won't open that flower. And he says, could we but learn from whence his sorrows grow, we would willingly give cure, as no, I'd be happy to help. And then Romeo starts walking up in the district, and Benvolio says, see where he comes, so please you step aside. I'll know his grievance, or be much denied. And so Benvolio's like, let me figure this out for you. I got this, uncle. And Montague, oh, I would thou wert so happy by thy stay to hear true shrift. Come, madam, let's away. Oh, maybe he'll talk to you. Yeah, let's go. So Montague and Lady Montague leave. Now it's just Romeo and Benvolio. I'm not going to say like Benvolio, Romeo, because if you were watching this, being performed, obviously it would just be two different people. But because it's just me, I want you to notice how my voice changes, how my body language changes, and how those reflect two different people and two different temperaments. We have Benvolio, who's like, we just kind of got into a big fight, kind of, okay, like I'm alive, we're good. Now I got to figure out what's wrong with Romeo. And Romeo, he's like the crown of the family, the crown jewel. So he's, kind of privileged, and he's maybe a little dramatic. So Benvolio says, good morrow, cousin. Is the day so young? But new struck 9. Ay me, sad hours seem long. Was that my father that went hence so fast? It was. What sadness lengthens Romeo's hours? Not having that which having makes them short. In love? Out of love? Out of her favor, where I am in love. Ugh, alas, that love, so gentle in his view, should be so tyrannous and rough in proof. Alas, that love, whose view is muffled still, should without eyes see pathways to his will. Where shall we dine? Oh, me. What fray was here? So he's like, oh gosh, like, let me tell you, like, this love thing is difficult. Oh my God, like, what happened here in this town square? Like, he's just like, where should we eat today? Where should we get some food? And then he sees all the chaos of the town square, and people on the floor with like daggers coming out of their chests, and, bloody eyes. And he says, oh, me, what fray was here? Yet tell me not, for I've heard it all. Here's much to do with hate, but more with love. Why then, O brawling love, O loving hate, O anything of nothing first create, O heavy lightness, serious vanity, misshapen chaos of well-seeming forms, feather of lead, bright smoke, cold fire, sick health, still waking sleep that is not what it is. This love feel I that feel no love in this. And so he goes from seeing the town like in chaos and like the mess that they left behind, and he has on line 180 a really interesting and astute observation that I think could really be like the subtitle of this entire play. I want to like make a sign of it or something on my Cricut. Here's much to do with hate, but more with love. It's a really wise thing to say, because the Montagues and the Capulets, the people who are loyal to them, it's not that they hate each other. It's that they love their masters. They love the CEOs, you know, right? Or kings, if you want to think about it like that. And they have such loyalty and allegiance and love towards these, you know, headships that they probably have never even met, that they're willing to sacrifice their life. They're willing to, you know, be profaners of this neighbor-stained steel. You know, they'll stab their neighbor. And all of this, Romeo very astutely points out, it's not about they hate each other. They don't even know each other. It's that they love the Capulets and will do anything for them, and they love the Montagues and will do anything for them. And so ultimately this play, what it comes down to is that 'tis much to do with hate, but more with love. Ultimately, love can be the most dangerous of them all because it can make you do crazy things. And he's kind of foreshadowing probably his own experience. Now, he's going to complain about this girl who doesn't love him, and he's going to quickly turn the town's issues into his own issues because Romeo is a little conceited. And he is going to be talking about this girl who is not sharing the same affections that he has for her. This girl is not this girl is not Juliet, okay? So I don't want you to get confused because the play is called Romeo and Juliet, that the first girl he talks about is Juliet. They have not met yet. She does not come into this quite yet. So at this point, Romeo's talking about someone else, and we'll learn a little bit more about, you know, who he's talking about. But she's really not that important. The only thing that is notable about her is that Romeo is yet again in love with her, and yet again he is going to start pining over her and probably get all like hella sprung and then like, you know, super moody and all that stuff. So Benvolio, he's probably seen this before. So Romeo, you know, as he's saying, you know, that here's much to do with hate but more with love. Then he kind of goes on about all these opposites. Feather of lead, bright smoke, cold fire, sick health, still waking sleep that is not what it is. This love feel I, that feel no love in this. And then he sees Benvolio, and Benvolio's like, right? He's trying not to laugh because Romeo this is probably like the 4th, 5th, 6th time that he's been, you know, sprung off of a woman who doesn't maybe feel his affections. And so he sees Benvolio almost laughing, and he's like, dost thou not laugh? And Benvolio is like, no, cuz I'd rather weep. And Romeo, he doesn't realize that Benvolio is like being sarcastic because again, Romeo is like in his feelings, you know? He's like, good heart, at what? And Benvolio says, at thy good heart's oppression. Romeo, he's all, you know, oh gosh, don't be sad for me. That's just how life is, you know, sometimes. And it's like, he's very much like a dramatic person. Why, such is love's transgression, griefs of mine own lie heavy in my breast, which thou wilt propagate to have pressed with more of thine. This love that thou hast shown doth add more grief to much of mine own. Love is a smoke made with the fume of sighs. Being purged, it's a fire sparkling in lovers' eyes. Being vexed, it's a sea nourished with loving tears. What is it else? It's a madness most discreet, a choking gall, a preserving sweet. So he's going on, and he doesn't really realize that Benvolio is like, okay, like he loves him, but like, you know, he kind of realizes he's being a bit extra. And he uses some really good language. He says, griefs of mine own lie heavy in my breast, which thou wilt propagate to have it pressed with more of thine. He's saying my grief is already lying heavy in my chest, and you are going to propagate it. You're going to make it bigger if you also show grief. Like, don't feel bad for me. And then he said, this love that thou hast shown doth add more grief to much of mine own. So now he's like so in his feelings. He's like, oh my God, bro. Thank you so much, man. You're always there for me. But like, dude, don't even say you feel bad for me because like I feel bad enough for myself, and like your niceness is gonna make me cry, man. Because like, bro, I love you. But man, this girl, she won't date me. And so, you know, he's kind of, again, he doesn't realize that Benvolio's kind of laughing. And then he says, and then he goes back on about, you know, how love is full of opposites, right? Like he was saying before, it's hot smoke, cold fire. And then he says something that I think is beautiful. He says, love is a madness most discreet, a choking gall and a preserving sweet. And if you think about it, like say you're at like a restaurant and like you get like a nice mint after your dinner and you eat it, and then all of a sudden, I'm joking, save me. and then you Heimlich maneuver it out, shoots across the room, hits an old guy in the face. He's okay though. And then a couple minutes later, you're like, oh God, I almost died. Oh, I was choking. Thank you so much. You saved my life. But I kind of want a mint. Does anyone have a mint? Like, dude, you just almost choked on a mint and now you want a mint again? And he's kind of saying that that's what love is. Love is you almost choke on something, you almost die, but you don't. And then after a couple minutes, you're like, I kind of miss it. I kind of want to go back to it, right? And isn't that for many people how love is? It's full of highs and lows, and you'll be like, oh my God, I am done. I am never talking to him again. We are over, never getting back together. And then a couple days later, I wonder what he's up to right now. I wonder if he's thinking about me. Maybe I should just send him a snap, right? So it's like a choking gall and a preserving sweet, that love is something that even though it hurts us, we just keep coming back to. And then he says to Benvolio, farewell, my cuz. And his cousin, who's also his friend, says, soft, I'll go along. And if you leave me so, you do me wrong. And Romeo, as they're kind of, walking and talking, says, tut, I have lost myself. I am not here. This is not Romeo. He is some other where. Tell me in sadness, who is it that you love? What, shall I groan and tell thee? Groan? Why, no, but sadly, tell me who? A sick man in sadness makes his will, a word ill-urged to one that is so ill. In sadness, cousin, I do love a woman. And Benvolio's like, I aimed so near when I supposed you loved, like, duh, I figure you were talking about a woman, not a tree or a chicken or food. Like, I assumed we were discussing a woman. Who? Right? So he says, I aimed so near when I supposed you loved. And Romeo's like, well, then a right good markman, and she's fair, I love. And Benvolio, he's kind of like, oh, she's hot? Tell me more, right? Yeah? So he says, a right fair mark, fair cuz, is soonest hit. And Romeo says, well, in that hit, you miss. She'll not be hit with Cupid's arrow. So Benvolio's like, oh, she's hot? You want to hit that? Yeah? You can get with her? You hung out with her yet? Netflix and whatever? No? Well, why not? And Romeo says, well, in that hit, you miss. She'll not be hit with Cupid's arrow. She hath Diane's wit, and in strong proof of chastity well armed. From love's weak childish bow, she lives uncharmed. And you can take that with as much double entendre as you want, right? But he's like, oh, I love her and I want to hit her with my arrow. I want to hit that. But she'll not be hit with Cupid's arrow. She has strong proof of chastity well armed. She is resolute in her virginity. From love's weak childish bow, she lives uncharmed. I have not been able to charm her yet. She will not stay the siege of loving terms. I've tried to talk to her, right? You're so beautiful. The siege of loving terms. I just blanket her in compliments. Nope, didn't work. Nor bid the encounter of assailing eyes. I tried to give her the look. Hey, what's up? What's up, baby? Didn't work. Nor ope her lap to seducing gold. I gave her jewels. I gave her gold. Didn't work. Jason Ray. I think it's for the next class, yeah. And so he's just basically saying, I've tried to get with her in all the ways you're supposed to try to get with a woman. I've sweet talked her, I've looked at her, I've given her jewels, I've given her gold, but she won't budge. And Benvolio says, then she hath sworn that she will still live chaste. And chaste is or chaste, I never know how to say that. It's not really a word we use anymore, but it means that she won't sleep with anybody. And Romeo says, she hath, and in that sparing makes huge waste. Oh, if it's waste, it must be chaste. So I was right. It's chastity, but the word is chaste because it rhymes with waste, which is also a good way to figure things out, right? Look at the next word, see what the rhyme is. Then she hath sworn that she will still live chaste. She hath, and in that sparing makes huge waste. For beauty, starved with her severity, cuts beauty off from all posterity. She is too fair, too wise, wisely too fair, to merit bliss by making me despair. She hath forsworn to love, and in that vow do I live dead that live to tell it now. I'm telling you, she won't sleep with me, and now I'm a dead man walking, because I love her. This is not Juliet, by the way. He has not met Juliet yet, remember. And Benvolio has some advice. He says, be ruled by me. Forget to think of her. And Romeo says, oh, teach me how I should forget to think. So dramatic, right? And Benvolio has some advice. He says, by giving liberty unto thine eyes, examine other beauties. What does that mean? Give your eyes liberty. Examine other beauties. What's he telling him to do? Is he telling him to stay in his room and just like isolate himself? He says, liberate your eyes. Yes. Yeah, go look for other people. There's tons of fish in the sea, right? You're Romeo. You could get like almost any girl you want, except obviously this one. So go examine other beauties. And Romeo says, oh, 'tis the way to call hers. Like he's saying, oh, beauty, that's what you call her. Exquisite in question, 'tis the way to call hers exquisite in question more. These happy masks that kiss fair ladies' brows, being black, puts us in mind they hide the fair. He that is struck and blind cannot forget the precious treasure of his eyesight lost. Show me a mistress that is passing fair. What doth her beauty serve but as a note where I may read who passed that passing fair? Farewell, thou canst not teach me to forget. And Benvolio says, I'll pay that doctrine or else die in debt. So Romeo, he thinks, there's no one who's as beautiful and fair as she. If I see a beautiful lady, I'm not even going to think she's beautiful. Her beauty is just going to remind me of the beauty that passed on me. What doth her beauty serve but as a note where I may read who passed that passing fair? So he's like, I can't meet another girl. She's too perfect. No one will ever compare. And Benvolio is like, oh yeah, I'll pay that doctrine or else die in debt. Like, let's see. I think I might be able to introduce you to some people. So ultimately, Romeo thinks that he'll never love again, and he hasn't even met Juliet yet. And Benvolio says, I'm gonna get you. I'm gonna get you back on track, cuz. And that's where we end on page 25, and we'll pick up on page 27 next class. I want to show the film. The first 12 minutes, but it looks like we're running out of time, so I will show that next class. So Zoomers, you are good to go, and Roomers, you can come back inside with me. Okay, I do that. No homework. Okay. Oh, I should stop recording.